Now we can begin.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, welcome to all for our next series. Today's lecture is going to be conducted by Ms. Pratiksha Chavra. She is working as an assistant professor in Department of English. She has cleared her GSET, that is Gujarat Set examinations, and she is going to deal with our topic, today's topic, that is Victorian Age, the complete background of this genres. I request Pratiksha to take over your session. Pratiksha, your session is yours.
Thank you, Purna Didi, for this formal welcome. There is no need to welcome me as I am the host of this lecture series, but then too, thank you so much for welcoming me to the session. I'll just start my presentation and then we will begin our introduction. Uh, I think all of you are aware of that why Victorian age is called Victorian age because it is related to the reign of Queen Victoria, and it is historically it is said that Queen Victoria came on the throne in 1837, but before she came on the throne, the age was said, or the Victorian values were spread in the society, and thus there are variations in considering the date, exact date, which said that this is called the Victorian age. But in many of the history books, it is considered as the period of 1830 to 1900 is called the period of Victorian age. Then we could see that in this age, what were the prominent things? If we look into the historical background of the age, we could found many things like we have seen that even in the romantic period itself, industries have started popping out, and those industries have attracted the rural people to the urban areas. So the first thing we could found in Victorian age, that is and the age is considered due to the economic expansion and the rapid change which comes with the industrialization and empire, as the Queen Victoria has thrown came on the throne during that period of time, and the colonies have spread among the world, and later Queen Victoria also considered as the Empress of India. And then during the age there were there were many social reforms have started, which gives a new turn to the society. The first uh, important thing which we could found due to the industrialization and the rapid spread of the industries, that is mass immigrations. In this picture you could see that there were people who are just immigrated from the rural to the from country to the London, and they, when they reach to the London, they as such they have no home to live. So the first problem for them arise that where to live. And then due to the problems, although they could found the work in the different industries, but they don't have a house, a shelter to live. So the urban areas have started sprang up with the slums, and when the slums are there, we could also have witnessed the pollution, that when there is no place, when people are living on the streets, the surrounding area might be polluted with the dirt. And so during this era, if we look at to the historically, we could found the poverty and exploitation also increased as people have started working in the factories, and in the factories they are not paying the amount according to the labor. So such kind of thing we could found. Although at this age we could see that have many inventions, and that we could also see in the economic growth, where we were discussed the economic growth of the Victorian age. We could see that how the various inventions, for example the invention of wheat, have give a new meaning of the life of the people. But although along with such and such possibility, there is still a contrast between social unrest. The social unrest is always there because of the people who are migrating to the urban London, and there they are not finding the basic requirements of their own. So although they found the money, but money is very less for them to live a sustainable life. So there is still a social unrest in the society. Although there is we could see uh, the middle class status is risen up to a little bit, like we can say that it's a upper middle class. So that level is just raised from middle to upper middle, but the poor are still poor. They are not, they don't have any other opportunities or possibilities to upgrade their class, upgrade the level. So the social unrest we could found in the Victorian age. And the age we could see that in that age there is a contrast between social unrest and Victorian values, which are considered to be the Victorian values, like the Victorian values like religion, people are believing in the equal rights and the moralities, then industrial work ethics, and personal improvement. So such were the Victorian values where people were believing, and such kind of happening in the society considered as a totally contrast of what is offered and what is the reality. And such kind of thing we could also found that it implies the double standard between the national success and the exploitation of the lower class workers, not only at England but of colonies overseas. So that is always there in the during that period of time, that the people were speaking of the national success. And even in many of the history books we could found that it said that this Victorian period is considered as a time of where we could found peace in the society, as people were not able to live a sustainable life. And uh, they have to somehow have to compromise what they are gaining. So this period is also considered a Victorian compromise, where uh, they have to compromise between philanthropy and tolerance and repression. Wait. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Yeah. So we could found this Victorian compromise between philanthropy and tolerance and reparations in the act of abolition of slavery which was propounded, which was came into being in 1833. There is the Act of Abolition of Poetry, sorry, Slavery, which has given few rights to the slaves, like slaves are going to be free from the owners, although there were such some social evils were there, but that too it gives a little bit freedom to the slaves and to relieve themselves from the clutches of the owners. Then we could also see that there was an act of tolerance of Catholics. We could see that in the same period in 1839, where we could see that even later we could found that in the Oxford movement, where this Newman talks about the tolerance for Catholics and repression, that is always a compromise between the repression of the people. So this all over this period is found as the Victorian compromise, where people has to compromise or adjust in one or the other way. Then as we move ahead, we could found that the period is also considered, and we could found that it has an economic growth. Uh, how we could consider that it's an economy. This Great Big Britain is considered as one of the first countries of the world to industrialize, to establish markets, and to reinvest the profits in further manufacturing developments. So, as the Great Britain becomes the hub of the industrialization, and Manchester has become the main city who established this industries, and it gives various jobs to the people. This Great Britain is considered the first and foremost countries in the world of industrialization. And then Britain is also considered as the center of the new philosophy of free trade. So it is Britain who has started this new philosophy of free trade, that now that is this government is no more going to interfere in the trade, but trade is free and taxed less. So that also gives a new a new way to the society and to the industries and factories. Then we could see that Britain also becomes the center of new technology. Technologies were emerged during the invention of the steam power, and we also could see that uh, it becomes the center of continuing industrial inventions. So inventions like steam power, they have started using steam power for fast railways, then ships, then for printing presses, for industrial tools, and for agricultural machineries. So such are the invention has give a, a new lifestyle to the people. Although here also the poor are sidelined by the so-called aristocrats, so-called rich and upper middle class. Even the invention of telephone has bring a new uh, life way of life to the people, as now the communication becomes too speedy, and people are able to, earlier it was that they have to send letter, but now the communication becomes too easy and too speedy. So it also brings some new changes in the society. uh, then in such and such cases, as we have discussed that these are the historical uh, background, that how this Victorian age has these many aspects, and how this England during that period has grown. But within that, we could also have to locate to the picture of this new society. The new, why I said it is a new society, because the earlier society was very simple. People were living on agriculture, and when these people were living on agriculture, and they were very happy, as they have only have to locate to such kind of things. But now, as there is an immigration of this people, these urban areas are disrupted with disease, dirt, and slums. Because say for example, like even today in the present situation, where if the area is surrounded by the slums, then we could found the dirt is always there. The disease are sprung out from such kind of places, because those people are living unhygienically. And such thing happen in London for the first time. Are started and into the urban areas. So this urban areas are witness this disease and due to the slums. Then the another thing is, earlier, as there was no law that how many times the people have to work in the factories. The poor law came into existence in 1834. Unto that period of time, there were no law, although the Factory Act was there. But then too, owners were free to coerce the laborers. And those laws have not left so much effect on the owners side. So what happened due to that, there in the uh, factories. But due to that, like as they have to follow this shift, like sometimes they have to go in the morning shift, sometimes they have to go to the night. So the father of the house, if he has a night shift, then he might not be able to spare a time with their his children. So rarely he could found the time with the children. Then later, this women also involved as a factory worker. And now this new thing has totally changed the structure of the family, because more of the time, this father and the mother, they are working into the factories. And this children have no one to look after, so they are also living on their own. So this new trade, this industrialization has changed the structure of the family. And due to this during this period, there is a need of sanitization to eradicate the dirt and disease from this urban London. So there is an during during the period around 1840s. And the people have this, uh, tried to get free of such kind of pollutions, although there is no hope. As the this slums, if you remove the slums, then there is a hope for the cleanliness. If you are not then to give an education of the sanitization, that will not do, as the people has to work most of the time into the factories. They are not getting any time for themselves. So that's why the personal hygiene was avoided by such people. It was not like they were not willing to, although they were willing to, but they are not getting that much time to clean their surroundings, their areas. The most important thing which we could found during that period of time, that uh, due to this trade unionism, and that there is we could also see that there is a degradation of the workers and the land. So and that gives the over exploitation. This over exploitation is happened due to the capitalization. So the landlords, the land owners, and the factory owners, they are exploiting to the poor, to the laborers. So such type of thing happened during such and such period.
Sorry for the
Although
inter.
the picture of
Hmm.
the society has changed, we could also found
Sorry, Pratiksha, for the interruption. Your voice is a little bit cracking right now.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Hello.
Pratiksha. Yes, you are audible.
Thank you. Yeah, so we were discussing about the material development, and as I said that due to this expansion of industries, we could see that there is a material development during the period, and the very important thing which we could found in the period, that is the commercial energy, which reflected in the great exhibition of 1851. And that great exhibition brings a new era of prosperity. So the great exhibition held by the husband of Queen Victoria, which who gives trade uh, to different trades to the one place, and that also gives a new uh, adventure and a new exposure to the industrialization. uh, in the same era, we could also see that although this material development we could found in the society, and due to different experimentation and different inventions, uh, England has grown tremendously. But due to this industrialization, we could also found in the society the evils of industrial revolution. And this industrial revolution, we could see that were painted by writers like Charles Dickens and Elizabeth Gaskell vividly. So Charles Dickens, most of the novels we could found that there is a touch of industrial revolution. And Elizabeth Gaskell also tried to portray the realism in her novels. Then, along with the material development, we could also see that the Victorian era is evaporated with the intellectual development. The first important thing we could see under this title is the revolution in scientific thought and the works of Darwin, that is The Origin of Species, published in 1859, and the other followers of Darwin. They have revolutionized the era, and people have thinking in the same fashion. People have started taking interest in the scientific invention. Then we could also see that there is an outburst of social and political theorizing, which was represented in the country by the writers like Herbert and uh, Jasmine and Spencer. So there were many writers who have also taking the uh, uh, try to theorize the social and political happenings of in the countries. And the same era also produced the hunger for intellectual food. How it produced the hunger for intellectual food in the way that uh, the the larger amount of people they have started reading, and what is the reason behind their interest in reading is due to the circulating libraries. These circulating libraries are such which are located in large or small communities. Most of the majorly they are operated out of the stores, and the store is not only put the store is not only fixed for the library, but the store also sold other items such as newspaper and books. And sometimes such stores are there which are not selling the material like the items like newspaper and books, but they are completely unrelated to the books. So such type of uh, circulating libraries have aroused the hunger into the minds of the people. And due to this circulating libraries, the period is also demand for volume novels. It is called three-decker novels, and such uh, such demand resulted in a great increase in the production of the press and other species of literature. And in this era we could found that people have Dickens also have serialized his novels, and the others also have followed the footsteps of Dickens. And we have also the volumes of novels. For example, the one easy example is George Eliot, who has written Middlemarch. So such are the things, and such things are uh, demanded by the people, and the literature and the writers of the age has fulfilled the demand in terms of, but most of the time they are taking the help of the society as such, and they try to portray the realism into their works. There are important aspects of the age. For example, we could also see that the act of abolition of slavery passed in 1833, and that also gives a political change into the society. Although it was not totally abolished, but at least it has started giving a relief some relief on the part of the slaves. Then, at the same time, there was a prohibition of child labor act was passed. Although still in the present time we are witnessing that uh, child labors are there in the society. People are forced the child to give their labor to different forms in the society. But although there were this due to the industrialization, like people have started sending their children to the factories, and looking at to that perspective, the uh, act was passed, and that is the prohibition of child labor. Then, as I have said, that this poor law of 1834, it was passed, and but that laws, such are the things which have passed during the period, but how much they are affected to the people, or how much help it helps to the people, it's still a question. So such are the things are there. And the very important movements, or we can say aspects, we could found in this age are Chartism, and then Oxford movement, aestheticism we could found. Then we have a group of pre-Raphaelites. So these are the actually not the aspects, but these are the movements that happened during the period. So we will look into the first Chartism movement, and I think majority of you are aware of this Chartist. uh, and after this movement, Chartism movement, the Chartist reform bill was passed. So this Chartist movement uh, is accompanied the expansion of the English industrialization, and uh, mainly it was led by the working classes, and they have concentrated in factory towns like Manchester. Why? Because they feel that, like, it is on the one hand, it is we can say the working class movement, but it is a working class movement for the change of the requirement is in the political change. So it is not for the poor, it is not for their rights, although it is in the hidden it is said that it was considering for the main rights. But the more major propaganda of the movement was the political change. The At that period of time, people were needing. And this Chartism movement was peaked during 1838 to 48, and this was the period of economic depression, and at a large scale there was a poverty in this society. And the need of these people who are joining to such and such movement is they demanded the parliamentary and social reform. So that must be there. So they were asking, why they were asking such things, because they believe that due to this bad government, bad government of England, they are suffering, they are living under poverty. Although it was how much true, that is the that one cannot decide on the way that it was the period of such economic depression. So not only the government is responsible, but there were other factors. But these people, they were believed that that government is responsible for the poverty, their poverty and suffering. In the literature, this Chartist movement is taken by Benjamin Disraeli, and the work of Disraeli, Sibyl. It dramatized the conflict and chasm between rich and poor classes of England. So, Sibyl, actually, it is a novel, but it is considered novel with thesis. So there were certain assumptions, certain objectives of Disraeli, which he has put forward in terms of the fiction. So this Sibyl is still considered, not only considered as the novel associated with the Chartist movement, but the same work is also considered under the title of industrial novel, because it focuses on the rich and the poor classes of England. The second important person who has uh, also taken the consideration of the workers' problems, that is Charles Kingsley, and his work Alton Locke, which was published in 1850, dealt with the textile workers and agricultural workers. And his second work, that is Water Babies, published in 1863, is talked about the chimney sweeper bowl. So, such are the people who are associated with themselves with such and such movements, and due to that, the people are aware of their position and their situation. Here, the more agenda of Disraeli and Kingsley is not for the parliamentary or political reform, but their agenda is of social reform. They are more towards, and their works are more towards talking about the social reform. So that is there. And now there is an MCQ. I think many of you have read something or the other on such type of things. So I just infer that you are aware of the work. So the question is, what is the title of Sibyl? You can unmute yourself, or you can write down the answer in chat box. Rich and poor. Okay. Then two nations. Yeah, true. The true answer is two nations. Here in Sipil, desirely is the subtitle of the Sipil is two nations, where he talks about the two nations, and the classes of rich and poor he considers as two nations. They are as such they are the divided classes. So here he talks about these two nations, that is rich and poor, and the exploitation of the poor by the hands of rich people. That he is focusing on in this work. Then another important thing which we could focus on today, and that is also the part of the Victorian era, is the Oxford movement. As we have discussed that how this Victorian compromise is compromising between the tolerance. So this Oxford movement is one of the aspects which was also known as Tractarianism. Why it was considered as Tractarianism? Because this John Henry Newman has published 90 tracts where he was talking about, and he was distinguished the Anglicans from the Roman Church. The leading figure of this Oxford movement is John Henry Newman, and this movement was originated in Reverend John Cabell's sermon titled National Apostasy, where he attacked the government's plan to de-recognize the Anglican Church of Ireland. So now it is this movement is not related to any academia, but this Oxford movement is related to the religious aspect, where this afterwards this John Henry Newman has begin it with publishing the different tracts, and where he is talking about and the distinguish between Anglicans and from the Roman Church. And he also mentioned that the Anglicans did not conflict with the Roman Catholic ideas. Uh, the this John Henry Newman's work, The Idea of a University, which was published in 1852. It was widely read work, and still a day many readers are considering this work as the major contribution of Newman's work. The other way, Newman is also known for the spiritual autobiographies which he has published in 1864, titled Apologia Pro Vita Su. So that is the spiritual autobiographies by Newman. Now, I think this about this aestheticism. Many of you are aware of aestheticism. What is called aestheticism? True. This aestheticism is uh, work with the slogan "Art for Art's sake," and the supporters which are associated with this movement, like Victor Cousin, Oscar Wilde, Walter Peter, and D.G. Rossetti, they are believing that the primary function of art was aesthetic and sensual, and not intellectual or moral. So, whether it is art, earlier it was art for life's sake, and there was a debate going on whether literature or the art is art for art's sake or art for life's sake. But the people like Oscar Wilde, Walter Peter, D.G. Rossetti, they have uh, believed that the primary function of the literature is for the aesthetic pleasure and not for the moral teaching or intellectual teaching. So they have also encouraged how they have used this aestheticism in the literature. In doing so, they have encouraged excessive use of symbols and imagery, which they believe contributed to the pleasure. And with that, we could also found a new slogan given by one of the propounder of the aestheticism, that is, life imitates art. And this along with this aestheticism, we could found one more term, that is decadence. But many a time decadence is just used as a pejorative term against to disparage this aestheticism of France and symbolists and pre-Raphaelites. So this aestheticism is more in innovation than the decadence. Decadence is just a pejorative term to use against the aestheticism of France. Again, an MCQ. I have said that this slogan, or I forgot to mention the slogan, but the last slogan which I have kept, that is, life imitates art. Who has coined this slogan to define aestheticism? Walter Peter. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, Oscar Wilde is the right answer. Oscar Wilde has coined this slogan, and he believes that life imitates art. And many a time we also speaks of the same, that literature is nothing but the mirror of the society. So that is there. Now, hopefully, the last aspects of the or the movement of the age, that is pre-Raphaelites. That this Victorian period, during the Victorian period, there was a group of the people who were influenced by the visual arts, and they have started referring to the pictures or the paintings of Raphael. and they have considered themselves as pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. So this pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood was found by the group of the writers, and where there is one prominent writer, and after this group of the writers, there were philosophers who have joined their hands, then there were painters who have joined their hands in contributing to this pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. So this group includes writers like D.G. Rossetti, William Morris, S.E. Swinburne, William Holman Hunt, and it includes influence of philosopher like John Ruskin, then painters like Edward Burne Jones and John Everett Milius. So these were the people who have contributed for the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. And what these people have done, they have deliberately invoked medieval images and aesthetic works, aesthetics in their works. Majorly, they have used symbolism, and they also dealt with the love. And when we say love, there is always a tragic love and morality they were focused on. Then we could see that although this pre-Raphaelites, the people have tried to give a new way to writing the poetry, and majorly this movement is associated with the paintings, painting as an art. Uh, so this pre-Raphaelites, they were criticized for being too concerned with the body. So if you look into the paintings of the pre-Raphaelites, you feel that they are more concerning to the body, and often they portray voluptuous bodies. So the sexy bodies of a woman or a man. So they were criticized for such aspect, that as they have portrayed such kind of bodies on the art and the art. But the main objective of the pre-Raphaelites was to attempt to combine hard realism with the heavy symbolism. We cannot deny that they have not used realism in their work of art. Although they have used realism, the hard realism presented in the societies, but they have used equally the symbolism, and this heavy symbolism has confused the work of art to the normal people or the common people. And with this, they have tried to make comment on the contemporary society. With hard realism and heavy symbolism, they tried to make comment on contemporary society, where they are suggesting a higher state of being. So this contemporary society is considered as if you look into the aspects of realism, still there is an unrest going on. So they have tried to show such kind of thing with symbolism, but then it is hard to decipher for the common people. Again, the MCQ, although it is not related to our discussion, but if you have read something on Victorian era, then you might have come across, or if you have read Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, that you might come across such kind of phrase or term. And I'm considering that many of you have read something or the other on Victorian age. So the question is, who has given the epithet of fleshly school to pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood? Uh, Answer: S. E. Swinburne. Yeah. No. Okay. So B. Yeah, it's right. Robert Buchanan. So this Robert Buchanan has attacked on the poetry of D.G. Rossetti, and uh, he has used this term. The article which he has written to attack on the pre-Raphaelites is titled as the Fleshly Schools of School of Poetry. And after that article, Fleshly School of Poetry, this epithet is associated with the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. And the article was written by Robert Buchanan, where he has reviewed the poems of D.G. Rossetti. And the last thing, as it is said that the history of England is emphatically the history of progress, and I agree with the statement of T.B. Macaulay, which he has used in historical essays, that it's true that during this Victorian era, this history of England was uh, actually the history of progress, where uh, the, that we could found the economical growth, then we could found that the industrial growth, and people also have improved in their lifestyle. And majoritarily when we say people, we are focusing on the middle class, not the poor. Still poor are at the base. So that there is a little bit progress we could witness during the age. So it's true that this during Victorian period, the history of England is the history of progress, where still, and Queen Victoria is also considered as like she has done something like what Elizabeth First has done in the Renaissance period. So Queen Victoria's contribution to the period and to the society is also equivalent to the contribution of Elizabeth First. So such kind of invention we could see in this period. This is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pratiksha, for the fruitful sessions. Now, the participants are requested to uh, eh, jot down the questions or unmute themselves. Here, the one question has arrived. If the literature is the minor of the society, that can be said art imitates the life, but the wild has put its invisible what he meant by the life imitates art by Pitharia, sir.
Uh, what are you talking about? What Oscar Wilde think of that while why he said that life imitates art? Yeah, okay. The thing is like what those people, those propounder of aestheticism, they believe that this art is for the art sex, for the sexual, for the pleasure, aesthetic pleasures. And why this they need this aesthetic pleasure? They need this aesthetic pleasure to just forget about your sufferings, so forget about the pain. So when you burden yourself with the morality, the moral aspects of the teachings, then you are not able to enjoy such literature. And life imitates. When we say that life imitates art, it means that it is not different from what the life you are living. As the period was marked as the truly portrayal of the realism. So the realistic aspects you could found in the literature of the era. The writers like Dickens, then writers like Disraeli, then Elizabeth Gaskell, and many other writers. Like that, there is a list of the writers who have written on such aspects, and they have included the condition of the people of the society. So when they are talking about such and when they imitate, when life imitates art, then they are talking about such aspects in the society. Such people are thinking of relating themselves with what happening or what they are reading. So I think that must be the thought of the group of the people who have talked about the or they are considering this primarily focus of the art as the pleasure. I hope I have answered your question.
Okay. There is another question. Does the idea of arts for art's sake has any influence on the 20th century new criticism and practical criticism by Jayanti T?
Yeah. I feel this idea of art for art's sake, at some extent, they have influenced the critiques of the 20th century in terms of they are more focusing on the piece of the literature. They are not focusing on uh, unless not that much influenced, because like here they are just enjoying the piece of the literature. On the other hand, this art for art's sake uh, propounding is not only that you are writing for the one on the primary focus is for pleasure, aesthetic pleasure, but they are not denying the moral aspects. They say that that comes later, or if it is not come at all, that is not that there is no problem. On the other hand, when I say that it influenced the new criticism, I on the one hand I said that there is less chance that it will influence. On the other hand, I say that there is a chance to influence the 20th century critics in the terms of this aspect of that they are focusing this, particularly the new critics and uh, the the critiques associated with the practical criticism. They are focusing on the words on the page. They are more focusing on what has written. So they are focusing on if there is any symbol presented, then they are focusing on the rhymes and the meters, and they are only focusing on whatever meaning you are getting at the time of the reading, and not associated the piece of the art with the other available details like author and the historical background of the author. So in that sense, this new critiques, they are talking about this importance of the individual piece of literature, what is printed on the page, and nothing beyond that. On the other hand, this art for art's sake writers, when they are believing in such case, they are not denying to take the help of the other types of things. For example, regarding author or the other things. So partially we can say, but partially we cannot uh, agree with the same thing. Yeah.
Here is the another question. This critics focused on the form irrespective of the other contextual details.
Yeah, new critics are doing such type of things. Yeah, that's true, Nitin. That they are focusing on the form other than rather than to focus on the other contextual detail.
Participants, you can ask the questions. You can write down in the chat box or you can unmute yourself.
May I ask you one question?
Yes, sir,
Yes,
please.
Nitin.
Yes. As you talked about the history and about the industrialization, and because of the industrialization, a migration happened. People came to city, and because of that, their lifestyle changed. But in the modern time, even though we have developed such industry, still people have a new fashion now of a reverse migration.
Yeah.
So, can you throw light on it?
Yeah, the thing is, yeah, you said that before industrialization, people have started migrating to the urban. But if you look into the history, this when the industries have sprung up into the urban areas, then they attracts people. Because for example, if you are going somewhere, if you are working in a factory, and if you are getting the handsome amount of money, then you are talking this, you are mentioning the same thing to, or sharing the same thing to your neighbors or your friends. So that's where people are attracted to such kind of things. People, this mass migration is due to many reasons. The first reason is that this industries have started attracting the people, where you are talking about the new lifestyle. And then another reason is the people are just they are feeling in agricultural space, so they are not getting more things from the agriculture. So there is a limitation that the income from the agriculture is less. So I think due to that, people have attracted and they have started migrated to the city. But now, as you said, that in the present era, the reverse condition is going on, that now rather to started coming to the urban area, people have started going to the rural. Why? Because as we have seen that due to this industrialization, people and the slums are too much. And if you talking about the present era, in the present era, the traffics and other things, the environment, the fresh air we could not breathe in the cities. That is very rarely we could breathe the fresh air. And now, as these villages are still there, and people who are belonging to the villages, they feel that homeliness here in the village, in the cities. If they have a safe life, if they have a shelter to live in, then too they are not feeling that safety at this place, as due to the increase of the traffics, in the sense that as this due to this revolution happened in terms of manufacturing of vehicles. So and then we can say this neighborhood also is not giving that much support. Also, it was that in little bit all the areas are not safe. But then too, the what you can get in the village, you are not getting the same thing in the cities. You are feeling more you are getting more respects, more safety in the village, and the people are always surrounded to you. You are getting immediate support from your neighborhood in the village. On the other hand, in the cities, it happened that people are not knowing that who is living next door. So, but in India, it is a different matter, and at abroad, it is a different thing. Here, we are not alone at a place. Yeah, in Corona car, it was like that people were feeling safe into the cities rather than into the sorry, in the village rather than in the cities. It's there in the Corona period. That's true. But there are the reasons for migrating from rural to urban, there were reasons that pe- people are attracted with the opportunities lying in the cities. Now these people are who are going back to the villages, they are fed up with such kind of things, and now they are going near to the nature, in the sense that they are finding a peace at the villages. So I think due to that reason, the reverse thing is going on during this period of time. Yeah.
Any questions, participants? Okay. It seems there is no questions. So we call it a day for this session. I thank you once again, Pratiksha, for this fruitful session and that the healthy discussion that regarding the topic that the participants was much needed. I like to thank you once again for the Department of English and also alumni associations, and especially thank you to the host who is working for this continuous session and this helping the sessions. I once again thank you. And now thank you for the participants for this also. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Purnadi, and thank you all the participants. Now we are meeting on Monday for the session. Okay. Thank you so much.